Fans, welcome to Sports Chat. A lot to talk about in this transitional time right now. Football season in Campbell County is over. Basketball season tips off this Tuesday night on the high school level. The middle schools are already going a little bit. UT football still going on, such as it is. But several things to talk about this week.
Well, probably the big thing everybody saw, Arkansas absolutely just drilled Tennessee yesterday.
Not easy to watch.
It's just one of those things, everything's going wrong. Pretty much it can go wrong. You get down, it's 21-7, getting close to halftime, about to score a touchdown, you have that key interception. That just pretty much crushed what spirit Tennessee had left. And that was it. One, the team is really young. I know people are mad at Dooley and don't want to hear that, but that's just a simple fact. The team's really young. And when they make a mistake like that, it's hard for them to recover.
Well, there's a guy, Robbie Gross, he does their picks panel. He actually writes a pretty good blog. I'm going to have to get the website for it to read about UT sports. And he pointed out, for everybody that wants to down Dooley and all that, if you look at Mike Krzyzewski's record when he started his first 3 years at Duke, it very much parallels the Derrick Dooley situation.
Well, football is just harder to rebuild and get started back again than basketball even. So it may take even longer. People are just, this morning I was reading Vol Chat and everything, but fire Dooley, we got to fire him right now. We can't put up with this, And we're not playing well, and that's just a simple fact. Nobody will say we're playing well at all. But in the last 5 games, we've played 4 top 10 teams. South Carolina, I think, has moved back into 10th place or something along those lines. But, that's brutal.
We played number 1 and number 2 right together.
People are mad because we're not scoring in the second half, and that's a concern. That's a legitimate concern. But, my God, we've lost our top 2 offensive players. And we're playing some of the best defenses in the country. And we don't have the depth. And that's when it shows up in the second half. You're getting worn out by the second half because our second string is a big jump down from the players that other teams are able to rotate in. Our first string are what our freshmen and sophomores, and their juniors and seniors are their first string. But still, there's just no way possible on this earth that, barring some kind of Penn State-esque Sandusky-ism going on, that you could ever fire Derrick Dooley after this year and expect this program maybe to recover in the next 10 years. It's just not, you can't have that many coaches in that short a time. No good coach would ever come here if you fired Derrick Dooley this year.
Dooley, of course he's struggled, but he's recruited well.
We're well on the way to another top 10, 12 kind of class this year. It'll be his 3rd in a row. And you got to give him at least 4 years. Nobody gets more upset than me to watch Tennessee play poorly and lose. It's just about the worst thing I can sit and watch. But, I realize what we're facing. This is what happened when they did not fire Philip Fulmer after the 2005 season. He just drove the program even further down than it ever had been before.
Well, it's like we were just discussing watching a little NFL before we came out here to shoot. Arian Foster, who pretty much said they didn't push me to work out at Tennessee.
Yeah, he spent a year conditioning, and that's why he turned into a very effective NFL player. He just didn't get that at Tennessee. But it's like I pointed out before. Tuberville, Auburn fired him immediately when things started going bad. Shula, whoever, Alabama would fire them within 4 years. Once things started going bad, they were done. Philip Fulmer program was clearly off track in 2005. 2002 was we started out should have been a preseason top 5 team. Returned everybody from that 11-1 team that blew out Michigan in the Citrus Bowl and just absolutely struggled to an 8-5 year and a blowout loss in the Peach Bowl. And that was the sign of trouble number 1. But we just, Tennessee looked past that. Fulmer won a national championship and all this. 2005 comes, you have a sub-500 season, and you lose to Vanderbilt. That should have been it. And now people are saying, well, we got to fire Dooley if he loses to Vanderbilt. No, it's to the point now that, like I said, you can't fire him and expect to get a legitimate coach.
Right. And Dooley said it before, you know, we was talking about the young team. I mean, he would, you know, he took a look around the locker room the first home game last year and asked them, has anyone ever played on, you know, and no one raised their hand. They were all new. Every one of them had never played on that level before. And you can't expect kids to play at that level.
And a lot of these players are 18 and 19 years old.
And they'll get better. And to me, they were doing fine, you know, as you could expect it to be when we had Hunter and Bray out there playing. You can take the starting quarterback off almost any team in the country, and they're going to show up with 3 or 4 more losses than they would have had otherwise.
Well, look at the Colts. I mean, it's a different level, but they lost Peyton Manning and they fell apart.
Oh yeah, I mean that's just what happens when you lose your starting quarterback.
By the same notion, you look at how the Vols did against Cincinnati with Bray and Hunter. Cincinnati's a pretty darn good team. And you look at what they've done since then.
Yeah, Cincinnati was 7-1 before yesterday. They lost their quarterback and immediately lost the game. First game they'd lost since Tennessee.
So that says a lot right there.
But, you know, it's one thing if you have a freshman quarterback that has to play and he's surrounded by sophomores, he's surrounded by juniors and seniors and playmakers.
Like Peyton Manning.
Like Manning when he came in. But it's another thing when your freshman quarterback has to play and he's surrounded by other freshmen. I mean, you look last night, Martin Lane, he's getting most of the carries now. He's a freshman.
That line's mostly sophomore.
Sophomores on the offensive lineman, sophomore wide receiver, and Rogers. And, you know, the defense, we're starting 2 freshman linebackers, 2 freshman safeties. We lost Brent Brewer a couple of weeks ago out of the secondary. That's killing us. He was our best tackler in the secondary. We lost Jensen Jackson, who was the best secondary player maybe in the SEC before the season started. That didn't help. Herman Lathers stopped returning linebacker. He's missed the entire season. He's just now getting back where he can practice a little bit. I mean, it's just
even on special teams, the number one special teams guy that UT has is what, a freshman?
Devin
Young.
Yeah, he's a freshman.
Straight out of Bearden High School.
Right. I mean, there's no other word for it. They're young, they're unexperienced, but they're going to get there.
You know, next year, if everybody can stay healthy, we'll have a little more depth, a little more experience. We have a much more favorable schedule where you're not playing. You know, Georgia's probably back. It should be a top 15 team after this week. They blew out Auburn, and they're like 7-62, 7-2 now. So is South Carolina. You know, from the 1st of October till now, you know, we've played 6 games, and 5 of them against top 15 teams. And that's the schedule. You know, we lose LSU at least on the schedule next year, so that should be a little better. And I expect to win 8 or 9 games next year. I mean, I expected to win 7 or 8 this year, and that was considering that we were going to have Jensen Jackson and Bray and Hunter and Herman Lathers and Brent Brewer and all the players playing well. But with what we've had, like I said, the Fire Dooley crowd, it's always going to be that way. There's always a vocal minority of fan bases who just they want to fire the coach immediately. And I gave Fulmer personally a good lot of years before I got on his fire him bandwagon. And I did the same thing with Johnny Majors. But eventually, you know, you might have to look at this decision with Dooley in a couple of years.
But you can't now.
You know, you can't do it right now because you kill the program.
On the other end of UT sports, basketball season officially tipped off Friday night. The Vols, they beat University of North Carolina of Asheville. Greensboro. You know, not you know, a world beater team, but not the worst team you're ever going to see. Trey Golden appears to be back as far as scoring goes. Mammon, apparently last year he just wasn't adjusted to playing in the SEC. So, you know, Conzo Martin, he seems to have him going as good as you can expect right now.
I think people are too far down on what the team should do coming into this year. When you look at it, they still have 6 or 7 players that were top 100 recruits on the team. And that's about as low to the roster recruit-wise as you'll ever see at Tennessee basketball. And that just speaks to how well Bruce Pearl recruited. I mean, he just had a lot of seniors last year. These guys were unproven. They got much playing time. But, you know, I think they should be pretty good. They're a lot better than the 11th place in the SEC that the media picked them. I mean, I can't believe they're going to finish 11th out of 12 teams.
Well, I mean, you figure there's 5 terrible teams in the West.
There's no more West in basketball.
Well, but what we consider the West.
But the old West, but yeah, they're Mississippi State. You know, South Carolina's a bad team. So is Mississippi State, Mississippi, Auburn is pretty bad. Arkansas is up and down. Alabama should be the only really good team out of that division, unless someone comes up and surprises. Arkansas may, because I really like their head coach. You know, I actually wish that they would have hired Mike Anderson when we hired Bruce Pearl, because he plays a similar style to Pearl. And you know, I think Arkansas could probably see a big improvement this year. Really, though, I expect the team to win 16 or 17 games, maybe even 18, and be right on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. And that's assuming some of the other players, you know, step up and help Golden out. And I think they will. I think McCray is going to be a good player. I think Maitland can rebound, score around the basket. His free throws have gotten a lot better. He shot 35% last year. He's making most of his free throws now. Golden, though, he's just been lights out in the first exhibition games in this game. You know, as a senior in high school, he averaged over 30 points a game and was the Georgia Player of the Year in Georgia's largest classification. And for some reason, his offense just went away last year, but it appears to be back this year.
Speaking of high school basketball, getting ready to tip off. First, I've got to give a big congratulations to Jellico's Cody Malico, signed at MTSU. He is the first player from Campbell County, be it either Campbell County or Jellico. He's actually the first player since a player at LaFollette High School signed a Division I letter of intent. And that was Gary Gray of Gray Insurance, went on to play at Sanford. Actually was Vic King's teammate at LaFollette High School. You know, Vic sent me some stats on Cody, and he's expected to have a good year. He's expected to be up for Mr. Basketball in that classification.
He's a big kid for high school basketball. Anyway, 6'4", can dribble, can shoot.
He's a great all-around player. He really is.
Most of the time in high school, when you get guys 6'4", 6'5", whatever, they're more stiff, kind of post player kind of guys. But he's really a wing player at that size, that's reflected in the fact that he's signed that 1A letter of intent to play at Middle Tennessee.
And yeah, he's apparently got some help coming in, some transfers to Jellico. But I'll say this. The Cougars came up and showed up well against Jellico in an exhibition type game. You know, it was a low scoring affair. I think the Cougars won 38-31. It just tells me there hopefully is going to be some good basketball played this year.
Yeah, Jellico had a strong team last year and
just missed Murfreesboro.
I expect them to be strong again this year. I'm surprised Campbell County did that well against them. I guess Matt coaching them up.
Matt, I tell you what, I mean, Matt's going to be a really good high school coach. I mean, you know, we all talked about how it would have been great to have John Higgins here, just the variety of experience he brought to the table. But, you know, I tell you what, those kids really like playing for Matt, and that means a lot.
Yeah, some of the football guys are out playing that weren't on the team last year. And
weren't allowed to be on the team last year because of some stupid rules by previous basketball staffs.
But now they're out, they're having a good time with it. Good athletes on the football team. I'm sure they're good basketball players.
You know, I've always said, you know, if it's up to me as a football coach, I love the thought of any member of my secondary playing basketball, just because of the zone coverage, the man-to-man stuff you work on. So, you know, if you can do one, I mean, there's some similar skill sets that go there.
Well, now you have two really good young coaching staffs in place for both football and basketball up there. They're cooperating with each other. You know, it's not a rivalry between them. They're helping each other out. And that's good to see, and that's going to make a big improvement on both sides of the sports spectrum.
And of course, on the girls' side, Campbell County girls, senior heavy, led by the man who is now the elder statesman of coaches in Campbell County, Ryan Brown. You know, we've talked to several of those girls there, burning it up in practice.
Yeah, they have got the desire to just go out, push everybody to the limit, win 20+ games, and make it to Murfreesboro.
As luck would have it, this Tuesday night is a rematch of the game that put them out of the postseason last year, as they will travel back to Farragut in West Knoxville to take on the Lady Admirals, a team that they pushed to the very edge. I mean, that game was this close to going into overtime. That game was this close to being a Campbell County girls win on a team that literally had no senior leadership. It was juniors and below.
Farragut and probably Oak Ridge are going to be Campbell County's big hurdles to get out and get to Middle Tennessee, get to Murfreesboro. Oak Ridge is always a yearly powerhouse.
Now, Oak Ridge last year had Armika Booker, and she could play for Campbell County's boys team.
She averaged about 35 a game, I think.
And she's playing at Mars Hill now. So, best of luck to her in her college endeavors. I'm glad we're not facing her this year.
I say this about Oak Ridge. I say they cycle in girls players every year and end up they always field a really good team. I say they usually were the big hurdle to get out for anybody, and multiple state championship wins.
Oak Ridge, very similar to Tennessee in the aspect that their new basketball arena, which is nice. I mean, it's like being in a small college environment. It's named after Jill Pruitt, their longtime, very successful girls coach.
It was every year they played Shelbyville for the state championship for a long time there.
And it's going to be a fun year for basketball.
Campbell County has made some improvements to the basketball facility.
Yes.
A new lighting, I think maybe a new floor.
Yeah, I had a picture on the Times a couple months ago where they were putting the new floor down.
So they just got the lights up.
Right, and me and you went in to the gym.
It's amazing. You know, used to be it was very dark and you couldn't really get a lot of detail, but it was nice. It was bright. You could see everything. I think it'll be good for the basketball team to play in a good environment. We had a couple of the girls on back in the summer, and I just want implore everybody just get out there, support these girls, because as we were talking just a minute ago, they're going to go. I think they're going to go all the way this year. I think that
they're going to Middle Tennessee is our very much hopes for that team.
Then it's this year or bust probably with them too, since they have
six
five
seniors
starters that are seniors, I believe, and the seniors the top 6 person off the bench. So this year, just like football, you're all in. You're all in with basketball.
Right.
I say show up a little early and watch the girls game because they play good, exciting basketball.
They actually do. They play as good a basketball as you're going to see.
And they're really nice people, really good people. You can't say enough good things about those girls.
And
if you're going to go to the game,
go to all the games.
Go to the girls.
Go to the JV games.
So
I mean, really, what else you got to do? It's Campbell County. Can't even go to the lake really this time of year, unless you go out to Twin Cove and watch some football. Also on the middle school level, we've seen Jacksboro play. Jacksboro is a very young team. Cody Parker started 4 7th graders the other night against a Grace Christian team that was led by former Jacksboro Middle School coach Billy Wilson, who has a really good team. And
you definitely had a really big team. There were several of those middle school kids, about 6'3" on their team.
And Jacksboro competed with them. I mean, Cody told me at the football platform, he's like, "It's going to be a rough start to my head middle school basketball coaching career."
LaFollette, I'm not sure if they've got their new floor down. I know that they were going to have a new floor because last year, LaFollette technically hosted the playoffs last year, but they were held at Jacksboro because LaFollette's floor
separated
due to an installation issue. And Coach Dodson told us at a volleyball game up there earlier this year that they were going to get a new floor.
So hopefully that's in place. Speaking of that, we will be going to see them tomorrow night, barring disaster, of course. We're very excited to see the Owls. Long-time basketball tradition goes on up there.
And that's probably looking back over the years, that's LaFollette's by far most successful sports program. One right there with probably Jacksboro football is the most successful in-county sports programs.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as winning championship.
You can trace those roots back to high school for those. Like I said, I mean, literally the last Division I signee until Cody Malakote was Gary Gray of LaFollette in 1971. That was the team, the late John Brown. LaFollette High School, John Brown built a boys and girls program there, much like John Taylor did at Jacksboro. There's a lot of great sporting tradition in our town that gets overlooked.
Show up for the games, eat some popcorn. Yeah, it's a nice evening. A lot better than going to the movies where probably nothing's playing.
You're either going to have to watch, some terrible Paranormal Activity sequel.
Some really, really bad Adam Sandler movie. Or probably Arthur.
They're bringing that back?
Again, that's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon.
Saving Christmas.
Wait.
Yes. What? Arthur Saves Christmas, the animated series.
Animated
movie.
The aardvark thing?
I thought it was the Russell Brand thing.
I wish it was the aardvark, but no.
Oh, yeah, if it's the aardvark, I'd consider going to see it. Fans, I want to thank you for tuning into this week's Sports Chat. Next week, we're going to try to have some basketball players on here to talk. We'll definitely have some reports from basketball season's tip-off, and we'll see you next week.